Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, a weekly motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news, specializing in track days, club racing, and great entertainment. We truly do it all. And this week we are brought to you by Working Class Customs, which is a custom fabrication shop out of northern Utah, and you can direct any further questions on that to Cole.
And I'm Cole.
And I'm Easton, your two favorite hosts of your favorite weekly motorcycle podcast. To which I ask, please subscribe. And I'll leave it at that this week, so we're not overburdening everyone with
Really?
the asking.
You want me to do it this time? Hey, guys. You ever been on a long drive, watching the weather and the birds fly by? You can pass the time on JKMoto. Subscribe now on any of your favorite platforms.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Well, anyway, how are you doing this week, Cole?
I'm all right. It's race week. That's always a good week.
Race week in what way? What type of race week? What are we? Like it was race week. It is going to be race week. It's currently you're racing right now.
This time of year, it's always race week. We are 1 week out at time of recording of USBA round number 1. The bikes are tested. The gases jugs are full.
How's the weather?
The weather is
weathery.
Okay. Oh, we got a high of 60 on one of the days. I think we got like a 59, 60, 62 weekend.
Nah, that's not bad. Honestly, that's not bad. Like the track will be warmer, and once you start getting all like warmed up and sweaty and heart's pounding and you're racing and riding whatever out there, 60-degree day is like pretty primo, to be honest. It's just in the morning when it's not quite 60 yet that it's kind of...
Yeah, man, I don't know what it's doing over there, and this ain't the Weather Channel, I get it. But man, for the rain this year.
That's because all them tornadoes in Nebraska at the moment.
Well, it's not just here where I'm at, though. Like everywhere you go, it's rain, rain, rain. New record this, record that. It's the cloud seeding, I tell you.
All right. Well, on that note, do you want to this tip this week, if you're down for the tip at the moment?
I'm not down for the tip. I mean, last time you made us wait till after the intro.
Well,
structure, my friend. Structure.
I was excited about the tip.
All right, let's do the tip.
All right, and I think the tip's going to be great for you in your first round, or anyone else whose first round it might be, or anyone. I mean, it's a riding tip, so they're always great, but it's definitely more riding related this week. So this week's riding tip brought to you once again by Benninger Motorsports. Josh Benninger says, learn to trail and do it gradually. Trail braking is a must if you ever plan to go fast. However, approach this skill slowly and feel it out. Seek out instruction on what trail braking is, why we do it, and how to learn to do it safely, as this is not a beginner skill. The benefits of trail braking are huge, and learning to do it properly will give you control going into a corner that you could have never imagined before. That is this week's weekly riding tip. Once again, from Josh Benninger down at Benninger Motorsports Park. They operate out of MSRH. Go check them out. We'll have a link down in the description. But I wanted to share that because I know you trail brake. You mentioned that, but I also know that, and maybe we should save our discussion on it for after the intro, but I remember a time when you didn't, and then you got into it, and you were like, this is actually huge.
It's more than huge.
Yeah.
Do you think, spoiler alert, do you think those guys were maybe trail braking too hard into turn 5?
Nah, they don't trail brake in Moto GP.
Roll the intro.
Yesterday at one point, I was in 6th. Miles an hour.
And we're trail braking it back.
Trail braking it back?
Trail braking it back.
Did we overshoot and hit a random wet spot?
Trail braking is super important. I mean, as Josh mentioned in the rider tip, the amount of control and the things that you can all of a sudden do once you get a handle on trail braking is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll say if you're new to motorcycling, you might not have seen it, but anyone that's been riding a motorcycle for a while, and especially like has had any sort of instruction at a racetrack or really just instruction in general, you've seen the whole pull the tire out, put it at an angle, I slap it, and it goes away. But if I put some like nice easy pressure into it at an angle, it can hold that all day, right? That's like kind of the most often way that I see it, but it gives you so much more freedom with the front end of the bike while you're going into a turn. Whether you need to widen that up, shorten that down, brake more, brake a little less, your front tire is already loaded, so it's able to make all those adjustments.
Tighten up a line, open
Yeah,
up a line. I
but
think I,
also, go ahead. You're good.
I think the biggest thing for me that it opens up is, so when you first start, if you're not familiar with trail braking, let's say you go into a corner and you decide, I'd like to enter this corner at 50.
Okay, tracking.
So you're going down a straight, you're doing 1,000 miles an hour, and you know you got to get to 50. So you start cramming on the brakes, you're grabbing everything, you're standing up in the wind, you got a leg out, the Rossi dangle, the whatever, and you're trying to get down to that 50, and then you hit that corner and you're just kind of set. The biggest, to me, the biggest thing you realize trail braking is, hey, I don't have, I've got another 100 feet of braking here going into the corner. It's not just on or off. It's all of a sudden, it makes the track smaller or bigger, I should say. It makes the track feel bigger.
Yeah, which makes sense too, because you realize and learn that you don't have to have all your braking done before you're at the corner. You can get some of it done in the corner, right? And so the amount of time between your brake and throttle really starts to shorten up when you're on the brakes, all the way to just near that apex, all the way to like the only time you're not going straight from brake to throttle, but you never really. You just might be on maintenance throttle for a little bit, depending on the size of the corner and whatever else. But to Josh's point, though, also if this is your first time hearing of trail braking, we're not teaching you how to do that tonight. Sorry. And anyone that's like kind of made it down that route can definitely tell you that, like, I definitely agree with Josh. It's not something you want to just, yeah, I've ridden a bike for 2 weeks now. Let me go ahead and go yank my brakes in a corner. But I also will say it, I think, in my opinion, once you get used to it, it's not like it's second nature.
Right.
And I actually heard Ken Hill kind of talking about that once, not to bring up another coach, but with cars, he was talking about how if you think about when you're driving, you think about how you drive, people trail brake all the time, just naturally. Because if you need to slow down more, you're just going to do it. So you'll brake while you're in a corner all the time and you don't think about it. You get on a racetrack and all of a sudden all these things matter to you. You can still have a very natural approach and do things very easily. So kind of, yeah, but I like that. That's a good tip from Josh, I think, this week. Appreciate that. Trail braking is great. It does open up a whole new world. It's like that, like you get to the track and you start trail braking. It's like a new kind of level, right? If you unlock an achievement, get a little gold ribbon, something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of related to you video game people. Sorry.
You want to know something I've found funny, related but unrelated? I was just thinking about, so you know what I had happen on my shakedown last week?
What's that?
My fault. My fault. I put new alpha levers
Okay.
on my bike, and they're adjustable, so they can be shorties or long, right?
Okay, so adjustable on like, yeah, okay.
But out of the box, you put them on. It's all good, right? You adjust them where you want them.
Mm-hmm.
You should really tighten up all the bolts, because one of my long levers is now just a shorty since the end fell off somewhere along the way.
Oh boy. So
But
is it the lever itself like gets bigger or smaller,
no, it's got like a machine slide in the middle of the lever.
and the lever itself gets bigger or smaller,
Yep.
like I just said? But okay.
No, what'd you say? Start over. What'd you say?
The lever, you extend the lever out,
Yes.
so it gets bigger or smaller
Yes. Via
through a
slide.
machine
Yeah.
slide in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
saying the same thing. I apologize. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is it's funny. It's funny. One of the things I chuckled about is real racers don't have tinted visors or tinted windscreens on their bikes. Okay.
Oh, windscreens. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Visors, yes. Windscreens, no. Like it's just but the first thing you do when you get a bike, you want to look hot, right? You smoke everything out, you black the windshield, you do all those things. What's another thing you do? One of the other first things you do, you rip those long, goofy levers off and you put them little short, stubby, beautifuls, da 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 da. I've just found as I get farther and farther into this, I don't want any tin on my window. I don't want any bugs on my window. I want that thing clean. I got to see through it.
Crystal clear. Yeah.
Same thing with the
And
levers, though.
longer levers give you more leverage.
Yeah, I don't give a crap what they look like. I want a big, long lever. And when
Yep.
that thing fell off, I had to finish the day with that little shorty lever. And I just kept catching myself going, stupid. It's the clutch side. So I kept going, stupid little clutch lever. And I was like, every bike I ever owned, I would have cut them off or replaced them or done whatever to make them as short as possible. And now I'm wishing I had the long lever back. Should be in the mail.
All right. Well, that's good. It is kind of nuts the way that things change. I am still a big style over function person in many ways because I truly believe that for me, I'm never gonna be good enough to go do anything super freaking crazy. So I better at least like looking at myself, right? Like my pictures better at least look cool, which is maybe a bad take on it, but that's where I'm at. So if I ain't gonna make money doing it, I might as well look cool doing it. So spend more money doing that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, it is kind of funny when you kind of slowly move your way along, and all of a sudden it's less about looking cool and more about like, nah, I actually need this to work.
Yeah.
So
I probably said it here before, but I used to laugh on, them long cross country rides on a bike.
mm-hmm.
Before you leave, you clean the bike up. You spend days cleaning the bike up. You spend days, making sure your gear looks tight. You spend all this time. About 1,000 miles into it, you bungee cord a pillow to your butt. You you don't clean the bugs off anymore. You don't care. At that point, it's just like, just trying to get through it.
Yeah, you get the freaking sunglass dirt. You don't know if it's sunburn, dirt, grease, whatever it might be on your face, but you know that your eyes are still perfectly white around them from the sunglasses. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, moving forward, we did
Well,
have a Moto GP race.
we did have a Moto GP race. We're only 2 weeks out from a Moto
The next
America
one and Moto America.
and
Is it
Moto
2?
America. 3 weeks out. Is
3.
it
Yeah, I was
3?
gonna say it's 3. It's 3.
3 weeks.
3 weeks out from Moto America down in Alabama, Barber Motorsports Park. We will be down there. Some of our great friends, a few of which have been here on the podcast with us, will be down there also, and we'll definitely be here telling you all about it if you don't make it. But we do recommend that if you are anywhere near the area, you make it out there, support your local racing, motorcycle racing specifically, and bring your friends with you. It is cheap for what it is, super cheap entertainment, and I can tell you it is great entertainment. We've talked about it before, but I'll say it again anyway. The pits are open. You can go talk to the racers. You can see race bikes up close, personal, see the teams go. You can walk past the Dunlop tent and see 200 freaking Dunlop tires being balanced and carts running all over the place. And Ken Hill will be out there and everyone will be there. It is a great time. Super cheap. Barber Motorsports Park is a sweet venue. Ton of history there. It'll be my first time going there. I think Cole's first time going there, question mark.
Yep.
So I know we're both definitely super excited about that. There's a museum there right outside of Birmingham. There's all the reasons to go. So anyway, leave it at that.
And to the our friends that are going, we've established here, you heard us. We did the math. 3 weeks. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, to include the graphics on your bike.
They're ready. I seen them the other day.
Okay.
I'm gonna see them this week. But we did have a MotoGP race.
We did, and not just any MotoGP race, quite the MotoGP weekend. We kind of talked about trail braking and water and turn 5 a little bit already, and I'm sure we'll dig into that a little bit more later, considering we had, spoiler, 9 people.
So before we get into that, and I'm hoping this becomes a regular on the podcast. I hope this becomes a regular theme for you.
Mm-hmm.
But who do you have to give the shout out to from Moto 2?
Joe Roberts.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Let's start there. Just give him attaboy Joe. I mean,
yeah, no, 100%. Joe Roberts coming in freaking second place. And they're over in Spain. I don't know Joe's history and if he likes that track, doesn't like that track.
He likes that track.
Okay. But I mean, hey, that's fine.
If he didn't before, he does now.
Freaking better now. Oh, man.
No, that was awesome. That's 3 podiums in a row. Leading the world championship. Moto 2.
Is he?
Yeah, he is
He
leading. An
I just clicked.
American is leading.
He is, and not by a large amount, but he is. I was about to say not by a small amount, and I realized it's only 5 points. But 5 points is 5 points. We're in first, baby. That's what's up. And that was the 4th round. That's not a small feat.
No,
So
not
yeah,
small.
shout out
Sorry.
to Joe. You can pass Cole on the track in California, and you can pass real racers in Spain.
He had a terrible qualifying, by the way. He had terrible qualifying, was in like 11th spot. I think he fell back to 12th or 13th at the beginning of that race and still came back to finish like that. That was not a guy who qualified second and held it. That was a guy that, fought for it, and it was a pretty damn good fight as well. He was coming. If he wouldn't have had such a bad start, I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda, all that stuff. But the dude had the pace. He had the pace.
Yeah, well, I mean, that still, though, that from 11th to 2nd, it doesn't matter who it is, honestly, at that point. People are going to give you props, and I'll give you props all day. That's awesome. So, yeah, if you aren't watching Moto 2 yet, this might be your year. If you're an American, if you're not an American and you hate Americans, well, maybe not your year. Sorry, we're coming. So
I freaking hate Americans, and he did it in Spain. There was like 3 Spanish riders, and he broke it all up.
That's good. That's how it should be. That's how it should be.
Yeah. Good job. Keep it up. Please don't let the pressure get to you.
Yeah, hopefully he can maintain this at least for a while. I'm still holding out that he gets offered a seat somewhere a little higher up. I'm not holding out for next year though. Put it that way. So we'll see what happens, but it is great to see the red, white, and blue higher up there and hitting the podium. And it's also good to see that the American racing team and an American are meshing like they should. That is the goal of that team, and
right.
It's nice to see. It's rewarding. So
I wanted to go on a side note.
Oh my gosh.
Did you have a side note?
No, I said before I wanted to get away from the side notes and
No, side note city. I'm the king of side notes.
Yeah. Oh, I did. Hang on. Before your side note, I need a side note. I wanted to make an announcement. Cole's Motocross Minute is officially canceled. Thank you to whoever commented. The one person, I don't remember your name, and I apologize for that, but you said get out of Supercross, Motocross, whatever. So the Motocross Minute, which we even had a name for it. That's how official it was going to be. I was ready. It's gone. It's canceled. No motocross. It will not be mentioned again, at least until next year.
Yeah, it was kind of a boring race. I wouldn't have brought it up anyway. That race wasn't that good.
But back to your side note.
Side note. News. Have you seen the articles about BMW and MotoGP, the newest ones?
Like the weird, everyone caught on that we were the first ones to know, and they're mad that some awesome weekly motorcycle podcast came out with the news before anyone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the next page right after that one was...
No, I actually haven't seen that one.
It's 100% official now. BMW has admitted that they are committed to going to MotoGP. The only caveat to that is they're waiting to see what these new rules are. And most importantly, the article that I read didn't really specify whether they were for or against, but it's this 850cc stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I wanted to see what you...
No.
Would you take 850cc's if they outlawed aero? Like that's the trade.
Now that's interesting. The only reason I would say no to that is because we already have that and it's called Moto 2. I know they're not quite 850cc's, but like you can only take a bike so high. These 1000cc's already rev to 19,500 RPM or more. Like it's not like you can well, now we're just going to rev it to 36,000 RPM and gain and more horsepower that way. That's not going to happen. That's not safe and longevity. Whatever else is not going to work. And so my reason for I would 100% make that trade, but we already have that.
So what is the reason for that? I mean, I know the reasons. Do you?
For why I don't want?
No, for why they are even considering doing something like that.
Oh, I don't know.
One, to limit the top speeds because it's becoming too dangerous at those speeds.
Okay.
So that's probably the biggest reason that they pointed out. Another one is to make it easier to pass so that we can get more exciting racing with passing.
That's
And
what
I
they
go,
say.
just do what Pedro's doing.
Yeah.
Is there anybody he can't pass? He's got the same wings as everybody else. He can pass.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's interesting, and I would rather you limit the. I don't know. I don't know.
What is it?
I can see the argument all day. I got it, but the speed and the safety thing. Okay, I get it. We need everyone to be safe. My argument for that would be figure out technology on the protection side that's better, because no
But
one wants, like, this is motorsport. We've been chasing speed since the internal combustion engine was ever invented, and even before that, horses, bicycles, running, like, it's forever. Men have been chasing speed, right? That's just a tale as long as time, so as old as time, whatever it is. That's not going to change, and so to take your top of the world motorcycle racing and say, yeah, now it's too fast, it just seems
so
completely.
the third
I don't.
reason,
I don't even know the word. Like,
the
just
third reason that I hadn't brought up yet, but it fits, so I'll throw it in now, is because of the high speeds they're achieving, a lot of the big name tracks can't accommodate for those speeds as far as moving the walls back far enough and to make it safe in that way.
mhm.
So they don't want to lose those tracks because they can't be homologated for. Is that the right word? That might be the
I
right
don't
word.
think homologate is the right word, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, that's why we lost Laguna Seca back in the day, right? Laguna Seca doesn't have room to expand anymore. They had done everything they could on that racetrack to keep up with big bikes, and finally, it just wasn't safe anymore. So we
That
lost Laguna Seca,
that
and there were some other things in there also.
yeah,
Sure,
hippies.
yeah, but so what I understand it from that aspect, and I don't want to see the sport die off. So that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. I got it. If they got rid of the arrow, I'd be interested in it. But as I said before, I want to know where the difference between that and Moto 2 is, and I don't see them getting rid of the arrow, because the arrow is more than just those wings that you see on the outside.
It's everything.
Yeah, it's the when you start to dig into the amount that those bikes move based on their electronics, every time they hit the straight, they squat the things. It's not just on the launch. They squat it any time they hit a straight. They're perfectly allowed to. When they come back into the turn, like, I couldn't ride one of those bikes even if you did give me 2 hours to learn how everything on it works. They got brakes all over for every finger. Like, I swear there's like, I can break this part of the tire, this part of the tire, this part of the tire. Like, I don't know. Um, so you could still have that difference, and we could talk about this all day. It feels inevitable, but I would rather you just put a speed limit. I don't know.
So what does that do? My next question is, what? Assuming they go to 850 cc's,
Hmm.
does that mean I'm going to have to go buy a 2027 S850 RR?
No, not even close. Why would that have anything to do with that?
Well, because maybe they're
Ducati
trying.
doesn't. Ducati's V4R is, and V4S is not 1,000 cc's.
Agreed.
Neither is Aprilia, and it's just the Moto GP is just a test platform for whatever, for prototype bikes. It's just there to have fun. They're for
And
all these
spend
big
money.
boys to make money and put a name out. And so it, I don't think so. Maybe, but it would be 10 to 15 more years down the line. But there is a question where, like, the world is switching from the inline four 600cc screamers into this parallel twin world. Maybe they're kind of leaning into that and saying, this is what everyone wants. Let's take it down. Let's get away from the super bikes. I don't
I don't
know.
know. I mean, you can make the argument they ran two strokes a lot longer than you could buy two strokes.
Yeah.
It took them a long time to make that switch, but
I don't know. You know what, audience? We want to hear from you. That's our opinions on it for now. But like I said, we could talk about that for an hour or two on its own, and maybe we will a little bit more offline. But for now, we'll leave the subject alone. But let's hear from you guys. Throw some comments down below on what you think. Whether you're not, I want to know people's predictions on whether or not they'll actually do it, and then I want to know, just like we talked about, just barely, what are your thoughts? Good, bad, why? Yes, no, whatever. Um, Also, if you want to shoot me a message on JKMoto podcast, we can we can discuss it a little more offline if you're also into this discussion and I'll bring the results to next week for us. So
Perfect. Okay, we can talk about the race now. Let's talk just about the sprint. Let's keep this.
all right. Well, before we get into that, we got to get into fantasy.
Oh
Got to
man,
get the fantasy results
that's a
out for
side
those.
road for you.
Huh?
You're the king of side roads.
It's not a side road. That's the intro into Moto GP for those of us here that are only here for the fantasy and don't want to listen to the full hour and a half. I don't want to make them wait around.
Okay, I try to put the fantasy off because although I am climbing that ladder, it's it's not even a rung at a time. It's like
You
I'm
weren't the
climbing
lowest. You weren't the lowest point scorer this week. I'll give you that.
I'm climbing that ladder, baby.
Yeah. What's crazy is the lowest point scorer of the week. Shout out to Duke is in second place overall. So,
So
but
he has more agony than I do.
yeah. But we did get a couple new players this week. I should have been keeping track of this, and I will make a list and announce every new player that we get after this week. So I apologize, but I know one of them came in, took first place, took the point lead for the weekly point lead, like took just everything. I'm pretty sure we know who you are, but we'll keep it a secret anyway until you reach out to us for your prize. But that is Team Thor. They are currently holding first place down with 549.5 points, and they
Who could
scored
it be?
178.5 points this last GP, which is a whopping amount. They do only have one boost left, just for everyone's information. You can look into all that. I'm not like spreading any crazy stuff here. After the race is over, you can see everyone's lineups and see all this information. So it's available to you, but they do only have one boost left. So if you're holding out on your boosts, they might not be. Yeah, who knows who that could be? Team Thor.
Team Thor.
Shout out to you. And then, like I said earlier, just a second ago, Duke, you're holding up second place with not near as many points made this GP, but sitting in second place at 543.5. And then Allhead sitting down in third. Pretty decent week for you. And 542. So just behind second place. So that is your top three.
What happened to you?
What happened to me? I'm still in sixth. And working class, Cole Burmester is in 13th place. Lucky.
Yeah, that's
unlucky.
up a spot. That's up a rung.
Yeah, and we're up to 17 total. So like I said, we gained at least one, I think two. So if you're new, leave us a comment down below. Tell us who you are, your username. Love to hear about it. We got a guy from Italy. I'd love to hear from the guy from Italy. Got a guy from Great Britain, Spain, France, Mexico, and a couple Canadas. Yeah, it's cool. We love it. So anyway, Team Thor, reach out to us on Instagram at JKMoto Podcast. We'll send over your prize, or depending on who you actually are, we might just deliver it to you in person. So anyway, that is the fantasy wrapped up for this week. Real quick before we head deep into the sprint.
I'm just gonna sit here and let you make branches and side roads and everybody.
I just want to say it's not too late to join the fantasy. As you can see, we're giving out prizes every week, and it is based off the points each week. So you could be Cole down in 13th and still get the most points for the week and still win a prize. So link is in the description. Cole, open us up with the sprint. Where are we starting?
We're starting with the pole sitter.
Here we go.
Who had the pole? The one.
There is a man in the world.
There is a man
who every Sunday when there's a race wakes up and picks out his favorite underwear, which is gold, and puts it on. And then puts on a suit, which used to be orange and is now blue.
Ish.
Yeah, ish. With a lot of red.
And
he hops on a bike and does, in my opinion, some quite extraordinary things. And if you don't share that opinion, I would argue that you are wrong. But it is an opinion, so I'll leave it at that. And this week, I think, was none short of some extraordinary things. Not necessarily all positive, but...
Not all positive. You are correct.
But let's dig into it. We'll start there. That's great. 100% took the pole. Had an amazing qualifying session. We are talking about Marc Marquez, number 93, the Gresini Ducati rider on a GP23.
First thing I want to say is, did you see the videos going around with after
the dancing? Yeah.
No, the dancing was terrible. I wasn't even going to bring that up because I didn't think he could do any worse dancing than the one before, but this one was worse.
He's sure trying. Yeah, he's working on it.
He's going to be on Dancing with the Stars next year.
Oof.
I can see it happening.
Maybe.
So, did you see after when he pulled over to the side to look at the big screen to see if he had got it.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny to me for some reason.
So it was actually like a little. It brought up some emotions. Being a Mark fan, because he came through and you saw him mess up turn one and then get pissed. This guy was upset, extremely upset, because he came through super hot lap, didn't see the pole, came back around, or like started his next lap thinking he was going to do even better. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have, who knows? But he biffed it in turn one and didn't have enough time to complete another lap after that. So he thought it was over. It was done. So he just kind of makes his way back around the track, and then you see him see the pole and just like almost melt on the racetrack because he did in fact take it, and he was super excited. That was awesome. Little gut wrenching, if you will. And then we get into the sprint. What a sprint.
I loved it, but I didn't love it.
I didn't love it at all, to be honest with you. And if you haven't seen it, we'll say it all the time. We put out spoilers here. It's Wednesday. You're late. Go watch it. If you haven't seen this, you don't necessarily need to, but for the shock factor, I would say it's 100% worth watching still. And I just want to put this out there. I will 100% let you know if there's a race that's not worth watching. We'll probably find a guest and cover something other than Moto GP if there's a race that's not worth watching, because we're not here to just like tell you every race is amazing. We're not the commentators. We have bias because we're allowed to. We're allowed to have opinions. So anyway, this one worth watching for the shock factor. I'm going to say it. There were 9 people that didn't finish the freaking race. One of those didn't even finish the first lap.
Who was that?
Alicia Spargaro.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because they have him down here not finished first lap specifically. And yeah, Aprilia riding high, taking a low.
Yep.
Who knows? Who knows? But it's everyone's complaint with them is their just inconsistency on.
So I know we're stuck on the sprint, but overall, I think Aprilia was okay because they had some support from the Trackhouse team as far as some better results.
Yeah. The Trackhouse definitely did better for Trackhouse, especially in the race. The sprint, we're looking at 8th and 12th, which isn't terrible. But when both your factory bikes wreck out of the sprint and then don't do so good in the race, and I think Alicia also wrecked out in the race.
Yep.
I'm going to chalk that up as a not so good weekend, which we've talked about.
Spots for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about it before, right? Is Top Gun here for good, or is he going to be highs and lows? And unfortunately, this is looking like highs and lows. Maybe it's the one-off that's just a one random low, and I'll give him that, the benefit of the doubt there because we give that to so many other people. But it's really hard to do because of how often we've seen big ups and big downs. So I'll leave Aprilia at that. The saving grace for Marc Marquez, if you don't know, in turn 5, he wrecked out. And after he did that, that's when the rest of those 9 other people started wrecking out in the same turn. Yeah.
3 in 1 whack.
Yeah.
Did you hear the announcers? So who was in that group? So 3 riders went down.
I want to say Bezzecchi, Bastianini, and Binder? Question mark?
I think you're right. So the announcers, they're like, "Oh, we have bikes down. They must have made contact. They must have got tangled with each other. The cameras weren't on it.
Mm-hmm.
Cameras blink back and show the replay, and it's just 3 bikes, boom, 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 with their bike lengths apart from each other at the time.
Yeah, no, they were just going through the turn and just front end out. Like it, so everyone's giving Marc Marquez crap all over the internet because they're like, "Oh, here's another excuse for him." But he's saying there was a wet patch on the track. If you go back and watch that race, 100% there was something there. Probably a wet patch. It had been raining earlier that day. It makes perfect sense, and considering it was literally everyone in the same spot, like. It like almost like dominoes, except like you said, they're not touching. It was nuts, insane, just out. The one thing that I want to say here, and I made a note of it, one of the first people to wreck out was Bagnaia, and that scared the crap out of me because I won a championship fight that was as close as last year, right? Last year we went all the way down to the last race. That was amazing. It keeps us super exciting, makes it so you're on the edge of the seat the whole time because even if it's not your person, you're still wondering who it's going to be, right? And if Bagnaia wrecks out and hasn't been doing so good in the past few weeks, it's getting real sketchy. And then you got some other top dogs in there too: Binder, Bezzecchi, Bastianini. Like those guys last year were all kind of, well, Bastianini not so much, but should have been, right? And this year he's re-healed, ready to go. What bugged me was that Bagnaia put his bike down, got up, and walked off and left.
Agreed.
And it hit because I was like, I told the wife, I'm like, see, there he goes, world champion, but he doesn't care. As soon as the bike's down, there's no saving it. There's no nothing. I'm not there. I didn't ride the bike. I don't know how it hit. I don't know. But to not even go over and look and see if you can pick it up. And maybe we're missing some of the camera angle. I'll give you all those benefits there too. And then several laps later, a certain person comes in, bends it, immediately runs over, picks up his bike, finishes the race in 6th place, still earning some points with a wing knocked off the side of the bike. Credit where credit's due. Who's really fighting more?
Yep, I agree. Right up until the point of you giving him some credit for missing a wing, because how did he get to 6th?
By racing.
By using everybody as bumpers to keep his wingless bike on track.
You're gonna say Pedro can pass whoever. No, it was pretty dirty. I'll give you that. It was pretty freaking dirty.
That thing he pulled on Joan Mir?
Yeah.
That was like...
Okay, but to be fair, if you were riding and all of a sudden there was just a brick in the middle of the track that wasn't going anywhere, would you pass it?
I read some comments along that. They're like, it's basically just a rolling cone, or,
like...
I
mean, I understand. It was dirty. It was bad. It was not a cool move. Bad. Shame on you, Mark. Honda, figure your crap out. If this guy can ride, give him a freaking bike.
The red mist was leaking out of his showy, and that's fine. That's good. But it was a little... I mean, he's back there picking on them poor Hondas. I mean, you're going to drive them to things I shouldn't talk about. Those guys are barely hanging on. And then here comes Mark through the back, gravel falling out of the belly pan. Wham!
I will say their slowness kept them in the race. They had a 9th, 10th, and 11th.
I mean, it was the one race that Joan Mir hadn't crashed out of last place on his own. Mark was like, that's not right. We got to put him in the ground.
He was doing everything he could. Oh, yeah. Anyway, the sprint, like the craziest part about this weekend was the difference between Saturday and Sunday. Because the sprint, you end up with Jorge Martin, Pedro Costa right up there in 1st and 2nd. And then Quartararo actually came in 3rd. And that got taken from him for a penalty. I don't remember what that penalty was for.
Tire pressure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, after the race, the tire pressure. You're right, because that made me so upset. Because I was yelling at my TV because Pedrosa was looking like he was going to pass. I'm like, just let him have it. Let him have it. Come on, please let him have it. You don't need it. You're a wild card. This guy needs something. He needs some sort of boost to bring him back in. Give me one more good rider that's back in there contending with the top guys. And he did finish 3rd. He was on the podium celebrating, and then they're like, actually, sorry, 8 seconds gone. Got kicked down into 5th place. So there's that. But with Jorge Martin coming in, Pedro Acosta taking 2nd again, brings him up in the points like crazy. So the championship just kind of went wild. Bagnaia's out. Marquez has had a couple of DNFs, not finishing that well, isn't looking so great, and Jorge Martin's just running away, and then you got Acosta coming up out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, is this what it's going to be? Is that going to be the rest of the season? Is it just Acosta and Jorge Martin, period? Are we there?
We got to go back to the tire pressure real quick.
Okay. Branch. Here we go. Side note.
That's not a branch. That's... You moved on too fast. I'm still on the limb. So, may or may not have made sense. Anyway.
Limb is definitely a synonym for branch.
Synonym. So, do you think there's a part of me that's like, Fabio's probably been running the wrong air pressures all year and nobody gives a shit.
Yamaha's been over there cheating as much as they can to try and get something. It finally works because everyone wrecked out of the race, and then they're like, wait a second, you're doing what?
Wait a second. That's actually a Ducati with Yamaha fairings on it. No, I hate the air pressure thing, but I read somewhere there was 5 other bikes maybe in that race that got the same penalty, but maybe they had crashed out, so it didn't matter. Because it's monitoring in real time during the race. So
okay.
If the tire pressure climbs over a certain amount, that's okay. as long as it comes back down within a certain amount of time. If it goes out of bounds and stays there too long, then it's considered a whatever. That's the way I understand
It's
it.
so
So
weird because I always thought it was like too low, like they were setting it too low to give them
um,
more time.
they were, but now they have a range. So I'm using the example of this, but I think it's either way. If
Okay,
it's too low or
up
too
or
high.
down. Okay, yeah, because I always figured it was like too low, and they would just check them out. Like you know more than I do, obviously. And maybe I just needed to listen better or something. But in my head, it was always literally on the podium afterwards. Some dudes up there with a little tire gauge, like do 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 do. Oh, nope, that's 19 pounds. Limit's 19.2. Sorry,
You're
8
fired.
seconds.
No, they're monitored in real time.
That drives me wild because like these bikes don't even have starters. I assume to save weight, but we can throw remote tire pressure monitoring systems on them.
Hmm. I
Like,
think a lot of them have two of them now because when that rule came into effect, one of the agreements was that they all had to have the same. It had to be the same one, right? But all those
right.
companies had different brands, air pressure, Schrader valves. Because they've always been able to monitor the temperature of their tire and the air pressure in the dash for the rider's benefit.
Okay.
So they were already using their own stuff. So when they come out and said, "Hey, you have to use company B," and you're already using company A, I think some of them were refusing to give up A because that's what they've been, you know, possibly sponsored by, been using for years. That's what their electronics connects to.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I do often forget how non-motorcycly these motorcycles are. And once again, like just to the credit of MotoGP riders compared to you and I, the amount of things that they are actually in fact monitoring at all times. I don't know how they look at the pit board and actually see what's going on the pit board.
I start to wonder if the pit board, because they have messages like the dash will tell them the gap and it'll say
Yeah.
who. I mean, they can get the number of who's behind them too
Yep.
on the dash. So
Yeah, number 72 plus 1 point or yeah, plus 1.2 or plus 0.7. Yeah, they can send off dash messages, but is that like timeouts in football where you only get like you can only have 3 messages? Like I don't know. It's weird, but yeah, I mean thumb brakes, electronics, you're adjusting mapping halfway through the race. You got to judge that based off of your it's a lot more that goes into riding a MotoGP bike than just I'm going to take a motorcycle and go race down the racetrack this weekend. So, but anyway,
So give us that rundown of the sprint top three one more time before we get into the main race.
so Jorge Martin in first, Pedro Acosta in second, and Danny Pedrosa in third. Should have been Quartararo, but he was at 19 pounds instead of 19.2, so he is fired.
You're out of here, son.
Gone. And that is your sprint. Keynote, once again, Bagnaia wrecked out, Bender's out, Bastianini's out, Bezzecchi's out, Vinales is out, right? So all of those people either were high in the points
Marquez.
or Alex Marquez, sure. I didn't mention him because he's not one of those people that were high in the points or were slated to possibly take the championship this year
Well, I meant Mark Marquez. I don't think you mentioned him in that last one, so we'll have to do
because he didn't wreck out. He finished the race in 6th place.
Oh, that's true.
He
He just
scored 6
wrecked
points.
some of the other people. Okay, go ahead.
Oh my goodness. We've been through this. Dang it. Anyway, that's the sprint. That's Saturday. You had a crazy qualifying session in the morning. Then you come into the sprint race and it is wild, right? Track's not dry. People wreck out all over the freaking place. We think the championship's just gone and Jorge's got it. Obviously, he's up there. He's the new robot. He's got it. And we run ourselves into what DG, whatever freaking unibrow Ducati guy said is the best race he has ever watched.
Gigi Delinea?
Yeah, GG, Delinea. Yeah, that guy.
So,
He has a unibrow from freaking like
okay, that's fine, but you got to be a little more careful with the GG. I mean, I thought you were trying to say DG Antonio. DG. So,
No, sorry. GG Delinea, the Ducati director. He was sitting in the back the whole time just
pretty typical.
yeah, but like sometimes he'll stand up. This guy was sitting down, trying not to I don't know what the entire race. And I don't blame him with what was going on out there, but I was just like I feel for that guy. No way. Like let's get his heart rate monitor and figure out what he's going through right now.
Before the race, you seen Pedro Acosta tried to follow his Spanish brother into the 3-year hospital cycle. You didn't pick up on that?
No.
He had an accident in practice that was a little rough on my kid.
Right
Anyway,
after they were talking about how he hadn't wrecked but
yes.
like once or twice this season. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they did. So, on to the race.
On to the race.
Marc Marquez still starting in first.
Yeah, and not many less wrecks this race, but not as many surprising ones. Really only one big surprise, which we'll get into in a little bit. Marquez 100% started first again, took off, amazing start, great start. I know that like that's a word or phrase that the announcers use all the time. I'm like, wow, another great start. Okay, but then you see one and you're like Brad Binder last year, like
Right.
who cares if I don't qualify well? I can pick up 15 places in 10 seconds, so I'm good. Yeah, Mark off the line, held it, going into the first corner, looking like he was going to take off and do great. And then here comes Mr. Not So Robotic Lately Robot himself doing something not so freaking robotic. And props to him for the entire race.
Yeah.
He was on point, kept his cool, kept his game, meticulous, perfect. He doesn't appear to be a robot anymore,
Perfectly out of control.
but yeah, he has that. He definitely has that kind of. I mean, he's a double world champion, and it shows. And I'll give him that credit all day, 100%. He knows how to ride that bike. He rides it well. He knows exactly where he can put it. He knows when to not put it somewhere. It seems like he's got it figured out, and this race was a true testament to that. That move, passing what 3 or 4 people on the outside, out braking, and then just slipping in right behind and taking off.
Yes.
It
That move was awesome.
was insane.
And then later, not much later, he did go wide and give those 2 of those spots back.
Yep.
Maybe one.
It was just one. The other guy caught up, and then he immediately took the spot right back. But yeah, 100% had a pretty good gap. Got rid of it. So Bagnaia and Jorge running around. Then you got Bezzecchi and Marc Marquez right behind him. And this is like the good portion of the race that this is going on. And you're seeing Bezzecchi and Mark kind of just start to fall back a little bit. You're not sure if that's just to keep tire pressures good or if they're actually falling back, but it's kind of starting to just keep going. But Bagnaia was never not literally right on the back of Jorge Martin. And it was some great racing. And Jorge Martin, we've talked about his maturity. Everyone's talked about his maturity this year. Looked like he was doing great. Looked like he was going to make it. And out of nowhere,
He pulled a Marc Marquez.
he did. And to be quite honest, I feel bad. I was like, it sucks when a good rider goes down. It sucks. Like, man, that's terrible.
Is there a
And he's
but?
not, yeah. He's also on my fantasy team. So that's like a real bad hit because I'm like, man, this is sound you're good. You're on my fantasy team. You deserve it. You rode really well. But here's the but. It's a little bit of excitement because as soon as he wrecked out, you know that's 25 points gone. And you know how much that shortens up that world championship that he was already kind of just starting to take off with. And it brings it right back tightened up, brings some other people right back in. Unfortunately, your boy with the injury also didn't have the best day. He was in second place in the championship, finished down in 10th. So that also tightened up that championship. So our current standings, world Moto GP, you got Jorge still in first at 92, and then Bagnaia in second at 75, Bastianini in third at 70, Acosta in fourth at 69, Vinales in fifth at 63, and Marquez in sixth at 60, and then Bender in seventh at 59. So the top 7 people really aren't that far apart, and especially like 59 to 75. That's amazing. That's what we wanted.
Yep.
Right? That's perfect. If Jorge Martin makes another mistake like that, then we're really just
I don't root for Jorge Martin particularly.
right.
I don't want to see anybody crash. But when he went down, I went, ooh, yeah, because exactly what you said, because I knew that was going to just close everything back up, give it a little bit of a reset, because he was poised to run away with the championship.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And like, I mean, it's part of racing. You're always got that like in the back of your head, like this guy could wreck, and you're always hoping it's not your guy. And you're like, I don't want to like put the bad whatever is out in the universe and make this guy wreck. But if I could, I want my guy to win. So
Right.
That's
So,
kind of how it goes. But from a racing standpoint, from a viewer standpoint, that championship tightened right back up.
so that was, I mean, that was maybe the biggest thing takeaway from that race is the fact that all the points tightened up, makes it more exciting. Agree with everything you said there, and maybe you're getting there. But in the middle of that race, those four guys up until that crash, like you said, just kind of round and round.
Mm-hmm.
Had a good start to that race. The meat and potatoes in the middle was a little dry.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's like when you get the meal and you're like, well, you're taking like 5 bites trying to decide if you're going to add seasoning or not. You know, like looking at the steak sauce, like,
I shouldn't need this, but
but here we are. Yeah, which with the sprints, the races are starting to feel like that often. We've talked about that a few different times. It's starting to just kind of feel like that. But
so but
then,
after Martin crashes, a shift happened.
indeed,
Mr. Golden Underwear, Mr. Mark Marquez, decided he didn't want to hang out behind that other Ducati anymore.
which was good and smart, needed to happen. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he comes up, says that giant yellow thing in front of me is now starting to slow down too much, whether or not that was on purpose. It's funny because the commentators were almost like hinting at that. They're like, oh, yeah, this guy's great buddy is really helping him out here. I'm like, are you trying to say that he's slow, or are you actually trying to say that he's literally saying, now, screw Mark Marquez, I'm going to hold him back?
Right.
Head out there, Pecco. Good luck. Anyway, yeah, Mark pulled a move on him. But Bezecchi took it right back, if I remember right.
Yep.
And then
Yep. Took
Mark
it
finally
back.
made it stick a few turns later, the next lap or something. And then to be fair, in my opinion, ran a very good, clean, calculated, whatever you want to call it, 5 to 6 laps.
You call him good, clean, and calculated because there was nobody out there for him to hit. Sorry. Please
Now,
continue.
because with the pace that everyone had,
Oh, he
right?
was moving.
So my point here is that Bagnaia is not brand new. Mark's not brand new. Jorge's not brand new. All of these top players are not brand new. They all have the strategy down. We don't really have Pedro's our only rookie that's out there and is like, oh, maybe I'll just burn my tires today, and he's still okay doing that. Everyone else is out there making these like super crazy calculated moves, and I kind of wish we had like 3 more Pedros because it'd be a little bit more fun and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always great when some dude goes nuts and then loses his tires, and this other dude that wasn't going nuts can go nuts, and it's just all over the place. But these calculated risks and calculated moves and whatever, when you start to pay attention and watch them, and you can see that these guys' brains are working, and you watch Mark specifically stay back a little further for many laps, but inch and inch and inch, and then launch an attack at exactly 5 laps from the end. And it was kind of cool once you start to get into what they're actually doing there and realize it. Yeah, the meat and potatoes in the middle needs the steak sauce, but then they add the steak sauce and it's just money. So, but what I wanted to say here, and you know I'm a Mark fan. Everyone that listens to this should know I'm a huge Mark fan, 100%. I'll back him all day, whatever. But my props this week, 100% go to Pecco Bagnaia, 100%, because he ran an amazing race. The sprint, we're gonna forget about the sprint. We're talking about the race right now. Ran an amazing race. Whether or not he pushed Jorge to past his limit and made him wreck, who knows? But he was right there the whole time anyway, so would have made a pass eventually, maybe, maybe not. Would have at least taken second. Ran a great race. Here comes Mark Marquez, 8-time world champion, crazy guy, home turf, wants the freaking win, hasn't won yet, is setting world record breaking lap times, breaks Pecco's record from the fastest ever race lap there, puts a pass on him, and Pecco immediately answers back in almost Mark Marquez style. And this time they both keep it up, barely. Barely, but they do. And then Pecco just sticks it out. The rest of the time, like there was just nothing there. And I was sitting there on the edge of my seat, like, we're getting down to the last lap, and no, he's too far back. It's not going to happen. And then I believe Pecco reset his record.
Yes,
Fastest race lap during the last lap of the race, I want to say.
I don't think it was the last lap. It was when Mark was catching him. The board's telling him that Mark was catching him, so he was trying to turn the heat on. At some point right there, he ran. Am I wrong?
23rd tour.
With like 3 to go, he hit the.
Yeah, 23rd. Yep, you're right.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
as Mark was right getting to him.
that was what was crazy to me, and that's why all the props, in my opinion, go to him for that race, is because Mark came out, obviously had a point to prove, had all these things to do, and Pecco hasn't been showing up as well as we thought this season. Just
Nope.
gonna say that this past few races have been kind of iffy. We haven't seen a whole lot of red where we thought we would. And Mark comes by, breaks his record. Mark comes by with another lap, breaks his own record right there, sets it again, and then Pecco answers it in true Pecco fashion and breaks that by 0.3 of a second, which is
Yeah,
not a small amount.
was a
And
huge.
with only 3 laps to go, that's where I'm saying the whole like calculated laps were definitely going on there because these guys had tires left over. They did all that perfectly, and Pecco 100% stuck it out, held it, made a dirty pass, but clean. Not saying dirty like, oh, this is terrible, but no, like made a beautiful pass in my opinion, because that's the type of stuff I want to see in Moto GP. That's the excitement I like. That last 5 laps of that race was right back to where it should be, and it brought
Agreed.
the championship back up. It was a great weekend in Jerez.
That big old mark that Mark had on his shoulder from that
Mm-hmm.
move right there. Man, I was clenched watching that. So
Yeah.
those two at Portimao,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't look that much different. They were coming into the
No.
corner, and Mark was not going to give up the space, and neither was he.
Yeah.
The difference was it was for the win and not for fifth and sixth or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But I thought, man, these guys are really putting it on the line. Like Mark, on one hand, I think it wouldn't have meant as much to Mark because he's already got enough DNFs and a lot of people are already saying, well, never mind, he's not going to win the championship. Although, as you mentioned, he's got every shot still.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, really, Pecco, you're going to make the same mistake again? You're going to fight so hard for first that you're going to wipe yourself out, and you can't afford any more of those.
I can
But
tell you. So Gigi Delina is sitting there, right? I was on my couch. My foot was doing this, right? It's on my coffee table, just doing this. I'm like, no, oh man, it was insane. And once again, though, that's why I give the props to Bagnaia, because that's what what I feel like I used to not see out of him. He's got this weird kind of angry edge this year, and this week he was able to pull it off and ride with it, and
got
that's
to do
awesome.
something.
That's what I want. So super exciting weekend. I think it was great. That championship is super tightened up. We have plenty of people right there. KTM is scaring me a little bit because they're not where I thought they would be. Acosta's doing great
I
for the
don't know
most
what's
part.
wrong. Jack, sorry, Jack. That bad year. This is just really bad. I don't know what the reason is, but
Yeah, yeah.
Bender
But
started
Brad Bender's not.
started good, and he's kind of went to Nowheresville. I mean, there were
Yeah,
many times this weekend they were getting it handed to him by the wild card, the little samurai,
yeah.
Mister Rosa. I mean, there was plenty of times that he was outclassing both of those guys. So
Unless KTM's just got like a brand new bike in the garage, they're like, yeah, we're gonna hold off on this for some odd reason. Or Danny
they're probably
Pedrosa
already working on an 850cc something or other.
with a higher top speed and faster lap times. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh man. All right. Well, anyway, that was your coverage for Juras. Unless I'm missing anything else, I can't think of anything. The race, yeah. Real quick, RNF, 8th and 11th. So 8th and 12th and 8th and 11th. Maverick.
What about Franco Morbidelli?
Yeah.
That boy's coming. Let me just tell you. He's still having some bad luck. He's still having some bad things. But if you watch his progression this year, he started embarrassingly. He's on a 2024. He started embarrassingly. And then it was
Yeah.
just sucky. And then it was boring. And now he's showing up top of the list in qualifying here and there. He almost put together a good race last week or the last round, but ended up crashing, no results, whatever. Everybody forgets but he was up there fighting. He was up there fighting, which is something he hadn't done this week. Other than was he the one involved with Jack Miller? I think he's the one that
Yeah.
he's the one that
Yeah.
wiped.
That I forgot. I wanted to talk about that. He is the one that wiped out Jack Miller 100%. Yeah. You want to talk about people making bad moves and taking people out. Don't
He's
not
not used to
mention
going
him.
as fast as he was.
Dude, Jack almost beat the crap out of him on the sidelines over there. And I
Yeah.
don't blame it at all. So they swapped the camera over, showed Jack Miller and the freaking corner workers there holding him back, like, no, don't do it, don't kill this guy. And I can just I can see under Jack's helmet, I can just see the freaking rage. And then they show the replay, and I'm like, no, yeah, 100%. Jack dives into his turn as he should, leans over, he's there, looks over, there's a bike there. Okay, this is racing, that happens, and then Morbidelli drops it and slams the bike over into Jack and takes him out. And if I remember right, Jack wasn't doing terrible at that point.
He had just lost 10th place to Pedro a lap or so earlier.
So not great, but
He's
I don't
struggling, though.
I don't blame him at all for being mad at that though.
I think he's probably mad at everything. It's probably everything that just happened. But I still maintain Franco's starting to show some sparks. There's some sputter where there was no sputter. And I think it's interesting to see what he can do. It's not going to be enough, but I think you're going to see him continue to climb up the ranks in the races. Maybe not the rankings, but in the race.
Possibly. I'll keep an eye out. I'm not gonna hop on your wagon there, but I'll keep an eye on him and see. Maybe I'll give you a Morbidelli minute every week.
A Morbidelli millet. How about a fashion corner? Did you see Aleix Asparagus' leathers? Did you happen to notice him?
No.
He's always got a pink gloves or pink helmet or some whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he tends to put a few fruity colors here and there on his suit. But this week, it was like yellow on one leg up to the knee, and then like blue on the other leg up to the knee. Then it turned it. He had a pretty sick suit on. It looked pretty cool. I kept noticing it going, that's pretty cool. And since I'm doing a fashion corner, what about Joe Roberts' helmet?
I didn't catch that one.
It's been consistent. It's the big blue star on the side of the helmet. It's almost like a neon.
Oh, you mean just for this year?
Yes. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. When he's hanging off the bike in the right way, boom. It looks like the star that's in the little prison on Mario Brothers, the movie.
Okay. All right. And that's going to wrap up Cole's fashion
corner is over.
Fashion corner. I don't. Yeah.
Moto GP fashion was cool. Well, I said Moto GP fashion was cool.
There you go. That's good. You made me lose my train of thought.
You were going to say.
Oh, what I was going to say was the question is Morbidelli, he's coming into whatever, cool. Maybe he's going to make it, maybe not. The funniest part is when Pramac decides to sign with Yamaha next year and he goes back into Yamaha and back down, which I think we mentioned last week, but.
So I don't know what his contract is. I don't know if I think he's on a 1 year.
Probably.
So he probably wouldn't be going with him anyway. And so there's a lot of rumors going around. You know how we don't like spreading rumors, but at least one Ducati team is going to switch to something, I would assume. Possibly two.
That's a hot rumor. Haven't heard that one yet.
If one of them's gone, there's a lot less Ducati seats. If two of them are gone, there's a lot less Ducati seats. And Honda, you didn't want to bring them up. That is the most miserable pile of. Did you see? So there was also qualifying today. A test.
Yeah.
Honda was bottom. They're 2 seconds off the pace.
2 seconds?
2 seconds.
So I'm looking at it. Looking at FP1.
No. The test to it. The test on Monday.
Which is called FP1.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Frankie Morbidelli, your number 1 Ducati.
No. Fabio Di Giannantonio, number 1 Ducati. Frankie Morbidelli, number 2 Ducati. Man, you're just not on it. Taka Nakagami, top Honda, in 16th, ahead of Jack Miller and Fabio Quartararo and Pol Asparagus with a lap time of a 1:37.3. Top lap time of the weekend, or the day, was a 1:36.4, so it's only 1 second off. Joan Zarco was a 1:37.6. Joan Mir, 1:37.7. And Marini was a 1:38.1. So I don't quite know where you're getting 3 seconds off.
Well, I think I got
it's not good.
I think I got some preliminary reports maybe before it was all the way over.
Good. I mean, they're definitely not doing good. It's kind of weird that Nakagami's up there in 16th. But the hardest part about the testing day is that those lap times are because you get
I know they're not
people.
necessarily going for a hot lap,
Yeah,
but still.
yeah. It's more the best. Honestly, if you're watching MotoGP and you want to like pay attention to the tests, the best thing to do is listen very carefully to Simon Crafar. Honestly, because he's got the actual news in there. He's not there as a commentator to just entertain you. He's there to give you actual like test
Mhm.
data and entertain you, but through real data and facts. And so he'll say, yeah, so DG just set this sweet awesome lap time. But if you look at Brad Binder, he's down in sixth with his lap time, but he ran 25 consecutive laps at 1/1000th off of the latest race pace, but he was able to keep that for 25 laps on a soft tire, whatever. He's going to give you all this crazy data and wrap it up into this package that tells you that like this guy figured something else out on the bike during this testing session. So testing is kind of weird that way. You're not qualifying. You don't need to set a hot lap. If you're there to test and see what you can do qualifying, then absolutely you're going to do that. But not every team is out there trying to do that. So, with that being said, Honda did terrible and probably just can't do anything. So, who knows what they're going to do next year? I don't want to get into silly season yet. So, I think we need to wrap up this episode. But to kind of just close up what you were talking about with Ducati's going elsewhere and whatever, be prepared for a heck of a silly season. It's basically already started due to where the contracts are and who's made what moves already. So
And Mark's going back to Honda. And
yeah, actually Lenovo is going to Honda. Repsol's going to Ducati. Mark's going up to Repsol, not to Honda. And Bagnaia is going to stick it down to a no. That's all fake. It's not real news.
man, you had me
Sorry.
there for a minute. You sounded as factual as that robot voice YouTube video.
Yeah, the one that just flashes pictures. Some of them are from 2017.
Yes.
Anyway, that's all we got for this week. We appreciate you guys watching, listening, whatever it might be. A quick reminder, if you're on YouTube, click the subscribe button down below. If you don't want to watch any more of these, but you want to keep listening, RSS link is down in the description. You can find all the platforms there. You can also just search JKMoto podcast on any platform for podcasts. We'll be on it. On the opposite side, if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel yet, please head over to the YouTube channel at Working Class Customs on YouTube and throw us a subscribe there. Check out some of the other videos. We got more content than just the podcast. And as always, I like to throw out the open. You can message me anytime at JKMoto Podcast on Instagram. I will answer any and all questions. If there's something that you want to ask the group, I wanted to start a segment. I know this is the end of the podcast, so it might be too late to put it in, but we'll start mentioning this at the front. Is there anything you want to ask the group of listeners? Go ahead and throw it in there. I'll filter the questions as needed, but we can throw them out on the podcast to the listeners and get comments back. And so you can get a little bit more feedback that way. Anything else from you, Cole?
No, it's race week. I need my beauty sleep.
All right. Well, we'll let Cole go get some sleep and hang out with his bikes, and we'll catch you guys next week after a sweet USBA round one. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.